So yeah, as I was saying, Alex, I saw a friend of ours today as I was cutting the grass, and she seemed to be really empathetic, like very gentle. She said, "Hey, how are you?" in kind of like in a concerned way, and so like I was.
You were trying to see if I ratted you out for something.
For something that right that I'd been.
No, just the normal stuff that's on the podcast.
Well, then it occurs to me, Alice, that maybe there's a phenomenon that I never thought of before with the podcast. That wherever somebody, the state they last saw you in on the podcast is when they see you next in person, where they think you're continuing at.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody was watching something from January where I had seemingly lost my mind, even though now it's 6 months later,
right?
They could be. So I wonder if that's a thing. But yes, okay. So thank you. What? That is mine. Would you like it? It's a bottle opener. It's a bottle opener from Lagunitas Brewing Company in California. It's a nice one. It's got a dog on it. And I think they had it out on the table in the big craft beer show a few years ago. And I think the guy charged me for it. It's like unbelievable. Wow. Was that with the tchotchkes? But it's a nice one. Might be put the Lagunitas people on my bleep list. You know. Okay, so I feel like there's 100,000 things to mention. Do you want to start?
There are a lot of things. Where would you like to start?
Well, I actually printed something out.
You printed something
I did.
out?
I printed something out from the New York Times. A great New York Times piece. I hate to say it. That's got a bunch of folks who they've invited in to write and answer opinion questions about Ron DeSantis. It's called Ron DeSantis Has a Jekyll and Hyde Persona. Our columnists and writers weigh in on his candidacy. First question is, how seriously should we take DeSantis' candidacy? David Brooks, who I believe is a Republican, but is
technically a Republican,
squish,
yes.
He says, Ron DeSantis was overvalued before and is undervalued now. He's still the most likely Trump alternative since he spans the Trump wing and the non-Trump wing of the GOP. But it would take a Trump implosion to bring that about. I doubt there's much that DeSantis can affirmatively do to control his destiny. All right, I kind of agree. Jane Costin said, and she's a big liberal, I think, extremely seriously and very literally. She takes DeSantis. Michelle Cottle, about as seriously as a moderate to severe case of shingles, so pretty seriously. So you see where she is. Ross Douthat, more seriously than any Republican named Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis' weaknesses are obvious, social awkwardness above all, but even his poll numbers have sagged. Nobody else has emerged from the... But even as his poll numbers have sagged, nobody else has emerged from the pack, so he enters the race as the only currently plausible vehicle for Republicans who don't want Trump again. David French, who's not a Trump guy, obviously, says, we should take Ron DeSantis more seriously than many pundits are taking him today. He has struggled under Trump's relentless attacks, but he's still the clear second choice, and it's way too soon to write his campaign obituary. Michelle Goldberg, who's a certified psychopath, progressive. A few months ago, before it became clear what a problem his personality was going to be, I thought he was very likely to be the nominee. And until 6 p.m. on Wednesday, I still thought he had a decent chance. But I don't see how he comes back from that catastrophic Twitter launch. It's not an unreasonable take if you're a progressive.
I mean, I guess so. Although I don't know how much, and it's hard to tell when things will cross over from being internet things to being real life things.
Right.
But I don't think a lot of regular people knew about the Twitter launch.
I can tell you today that I talked about it for the first hour of my show, including with a whole bunch of DeSantis audio, and I got almost no phone calls on it.
And there was a piece, I'm trying to see if I sent it to us. Somebody did a piece, I think it might even have been Politico or somebody, where they went around and interviewed people at some Tim Scott event in Iowa, and a bunch of them hadn't really heard that it happened too. So, I mean, like yes, everybody on Twitter. So, first of all, DeSantis got accused of the announcement being too online, both in concept and in the stuff he talked about. Like, he talked about Bitcoin and stuff, and and just culture war issues, things more online people care about, not so much like the kitchen table affordability issues and stuff.
The whole tenor of last night was kind of like the Tucker Carlson show. It was for a very specific, non-globalists.
Right.
Kept it about foreign intervention. It was very...
So it felt, so a lot of people complain that it was like too online and like not in touch enough with like the regular people, which is fair, I think.
Well, he didn't really talk about the economy or foreign policy.
Right. Although I think regular people care about the border, and he did talk about the border.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got accused of being too online in that sense, but at the same time, I also think the criticism of him is too online. Like, it's going to be what it is. He's going to do how he does in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada and these early states. And voters will like him or they won't. It's sort of hard to tell how people will do until they actually try. And who will take off and who won't, and how people will be, how people will react to him in person. But, I think that most people aren't aware of the disastrous Twitter launch, or even I don't think like necessarily Iowa voters like know who Elon Musk even is.
But are people aware enough to make it an SNL skit?
Right. So that's the question. And Trump was like tweeting out little parodies.
They did a good job.
There was a lot of funny stuff from the Trump team surrounding it. They are, in this particular instance, the funny trolls, and the DeSantis team is the stodgy.
Right.
Like,
and even though
in the mud doesn't get technology.
Even though I don't see that personality problem, I haven't seen it. Like
these
people
are
acting like it. These people are acting like it's like an absolute given. These people saying, "Oh, well, given his personality and the fact that he's a grump," and it's like I don't see that whatsoever in him.
Yeah, well, Trump also was sort of a germaphobe and didn't love like shaking hands and stuff.
I think that's apocryphal too.
But I think that it was more true. But I think Trump really likes all the adoration he gets from people, and that like opened him up a lot to people as he got more into campaigning and stuff. It just remains to be seen. Like, he has never been on the national campaign stage. So it just kind of, you have to see how it goes, because some people can do it and some people can't. So you just don't really know until you try. I'm not like sold that this event was like amazing for him or terrible for him either way necessarily. Like, I enjoyed it. I was into it. I enjoyed the chaos as well of everything not working. It wasn't
a McPerry moment, because it wasn't DeSantis who screwed up. In fact, DeSantis was very un-Rick Perry. He was rolling when he was actually answering questions.
Right,
but it was a Rick Perry moment for Elon.
Right, and I think people aren't tuned. I think regular people aren't tuned in enough to the presidential primary for it to be that huge a thing. So we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how it plays out. I will say that one thing that I hate, and I think is a mistake for anybody remotely connected to DeSantis to be doing, is the continued, and we talked about this a little bit last night, like, we broke the internet. Like, yeah. I hate that. Can you play that Laura Ingraham clip that I sent us, where it's David Sachs goes on there and is talking to Laura about the event, and he does this stuff again, and I just, like, I'm going to sprain something from cringing if they keep doing this, because it's so bad. Like, I just really, really hate it. And, it's just not a good excuse to, like, say that, we were just too popular. That's what happened. Like, it's embarrassing, and it's a bad look, and you shouldn't do it.
Where did you send this? Oh, there it is, Laura Ingraham. Okay.
Yeah, but so Laura had on David Sachs, who again is this rich guy who kind of set this up.
Okay, hang on.
Joining me now exclusively is the man who moderated DeSantis' 2024 launch tonight on Twitter, David Sachs. He's also the partner at Kraft Ventures and co-host of the All In podcast, a big entrepreneur. David, great to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us. Now, we're going to get to Governor DeSantis' vision, especially like ripping apart the bureaucracy in a moment. But the question on everyone's mind, including my daughters tonight, is what happened? I mean, you handled it so well, much better than I would have. But what happened at the top?
Well, what happened at the top, Laura, is just we had 1 million people simultaneously trying to get into a Twitter space, which is an online room. And I mean, DeSantis just melted the servers. We had so much interest. I mean, I got to hand it to him. Normally it takes a Kardashian to do that. So we just had so much interest. It took about 15 minutes. We've never had that level of scale before on Twitter. I think the biggest room's been around 100,000. And so after about 15 minutes, we just moved the room to my account from Elon's account. And then it really worked perfectly. I think if your viewers want to go on Twitter, the recording is going viral right now. They're going to wonder what all the fuss is about, because once we got started, the audio was perfect. And I think the governor...
Oh, what a gross cleanup job. You want to keep going with this?
No, that's all I needed. But yeah.
You got to stop it with that, because what's going to happen is DeSantis is not going to break servers going forward, because he's going to have to earn interest. He's going to have to speak to some empty rooms.
Yeah, everybody is. And, you know, you have to not be Jeb Bush, please clap, doing stuff like that. Like, you can't be doing this pathetic thing, especially if Team Trump is so on point with, like, the internet game and the coolness and the funniness factor.
Yeah.
You can't be this embarrassing.
Right.
It's just not, like, nobody wants... I mean, and I get it, because I'm, like, a policy nerd and wonky, and, like, I like that stuff, and I think DeSantis is great in that way, where he's really, really deep on policy, and so I like that, but, like, unfortunately or fortunately, people don't elect that guy.
And it's very, I mean, this guy, he's supposed to be an entrepreneur. He sounds like a third-rate Karine Jean-Pierre Flack.
Right.
It's like, really? You're going with that? That's what's the Trapper Keeper? Okay.
Well, yeah, and I don't think that it's a good look in general for DeSantis to have these wealthy donors flacking for him.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you want... I think, is it the Citadel Capital guy? The one who was, like, behind some of the Wall Street side of the GameStop stuff. Griffin, is that his name? I forgot. I think he likes DeSantis too, I think. But like, yeah, you shouldn't have people like that. It's a bad look when you're like the party that's against elites. Like, to have like rich donors going out and flacking for you on Laura Ingraham. It's once again embarrassing, and it like makes him look bad.
Yeah, let me read a couple more of these things. Rosie Gray says Ron DeSantis is the only Republican so far who appears capable of putting up a credible challenge to Trump. But his pre-candidacy wasn't very encouraging. He's allowed Trump to define him as a personality-challenged weirdo, and he has made politically questionable moves like the 6-week abortion ban he signed.
I mean, I like weirdos, but I'm a weirdo.
Catherine Mangu Ward, who we love from Reason, says he's a capable governor of a successful state. So this is the libertarian, so you know what's coming. He's a capable governor of a successful state who has a good eye for the places where political points can be scored, mostly authoritarian culture war stunts, even if he isn't always successful in scoring them. Daniel McCarthy says, I don't know him, he would be the front runner any other year. He'll be the front runner next year if luck somehow takes Donald Trump out of the race. As things stand, Ron DeSantis is as serious a contender as anyone can be with the ex-president in the contest. Fair?
That's true, I think. I think that... Yeah, aside from Trump, which is a really big caveat, he's the front runner.
Right. Brett Stevens says, 3 months ago, I would have predicted that Ron DeSantis, fresh from his resounding re-election as governor of Florida, would beat Trump for the Republican primary. Now he looks more like the Ted Cruz of this electoral cycle. Pompous, mean, and not nearly as clever as he seems to think he is.
Oh, that's unfair. I don't think he's Ted Cruz quite. Do you think so?
No. But, I mean, I don't see any similarities between them. What matters most about him as a presidential candidate? I won't go through all these. Brooks says, DeSantis' problem is that he can't attack Trump because a chunk of his support is Trumpy, and he cannot attack Trump.
He kind of did, though.
Since Trump is flailing him day after day. Oh, and he can't... Oh, no. And he says that he can't not attack Trump because Trump is flailing him day after day. I think of a candidate who took down a front runner without... I can't think of a candidate... Too bad I can't read. I can't think of a candidate who took down a front runner without criticizing him. DeSantis has locked himself into a posture in which he looks weak and passive. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he has to criticize. That is the trap, right? He has to criticize Trump because you can't beat Trump without criticizing him. But you also, like, you need those voters. So, you know, there's not really a way around that.
So I think there's a possibility that there could be a strategic error by Trump in Trump's handlers, where DeSantis, by not going after Trump, by speaking directly to the people, holding the Florida brochure and saying, I can do this for the country, that DeSantis is, if they debate, or even in just messaging on social media, etc., at each other in the two campaigns, that DeSantis could possibly try to draw Trump in to playing DeSantis's game, rather than DeSantis having to play the Trump game and go at him in the Trump's way. So then if Trump tries to go after DeSantis on the issues, DeSantis can land punches. So maybe that's why DeSantis isn't doing anything, because he doesn't want to make it look like that it's bothering him whatsoever, or that he even notices it.
Right.
So then maybe just draw, because Trump can't just stay in there all day and call him meatball during the debates. At some point, DeSantis can try to take credit or portray differences in the handling of COVID, for instance, that will draw Trump in to that issue rather than just flame-throwing bromides. And once he's drawn into the issue, then DeSantis can, without being insulting to the Trumpers out there who they were talking about, who he needs, can just simply say, unfortunately, your intentions and what unfolded were two very different things. I did it differently in Florida.
Right. And there's a
DeSantis
number
can
of
keep his attacks limited to
what you said and what you did.
And you attacked me for it.
Right.
Right.
And but yeah, I mean, I think that's the only legitimate line of attack against Trump, is to say, like, I like a lot of the stuff that you did, but you also didn't do stuff that you needed to do.
Right, and it's very clear that he's going to go
like
after
the deep state stuff.
And it's very clear that talking about fixing the bridges in South Florida, that is,
and the wall,
that's
and
the wall.
Other stuff.
The wall is going to be a thing. Is this guy promised you the wall and he couldn't deliver?
And he promised to lock up the corrupt
and remember,
people,
and
like
he can do that
Clinton
also,
or Epstein.
Yes,
you know?
but he also can do that without insulting Trump. He
Right.
can just say that, like I said, I've studied the U.S. Constitution in my capacity as an attorney, a U.S. attorney, JAG officer, and I studied the Florida Constitution, so I know how to navigate these waters.
Now, of course, Trump's response to that is going to be, I knew all that. I could have done just fine. I was constantly sabotaged from day one in office. And if you think that they're not going to do the same thing to you that they did to me and sandbag you at every possible turn, prosecute you for absolutely nothing, go after you with the FBI and the DOJ and everybody, come up with fake intelligence on you that shows that you're an asset of some foreign country, whatever it is, they're going to do that to you too.
That's a defensive answer.
Right. But I think that is going to be Trump's answer, because that has been the sort of response from Trump people when DeSantis people say this stuff. By the way, Trump didn't do X, Y, Z. They'll say Trump was sabotaged, and they'll sabotage him too. And you, Ron DeSantis, don't understand what's coming after you because you haven't experienced this the way Trump has. And now Trump has experienced it personally, and he knows what the deal is, and he's going to go after those people and stop them, and he's the only one who can. Well, that's going to be the argument, right?
Well, Trump would be right if he said that too. It just happens to be factual too.
Right. So I mean, that's the
that
discussion.
stirs a lot of passions, and I feel that way too, and I almost feel like that. I mean, but I don't know if Trump can make that. Can he make that argument that he's uniquely positioned because he's been through the? Is the crucible thing? Is that working this?
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
So that he sees how the machine works because it's consumed him.
But that's the argument, is because they're essentially arguing for, with some exceptions, for the same political policies, right? In a lot of cases, on the important stuff, this deep state stuff, immigration stuff. The question is who is going to be effective at doing it, right? The places where they differ on policy, the major ones, because you can see these arguments sort of starting to take shape amongst the little various talking heads on Twitter who work for one of these people. The big policy difference, I think, is going to be this culture war stuff, because Trump has really embraced a lot of the like gay community stuff.
But isn't that smart?
Well, but I don't know if like telling people to lay off Bud Light is where people are.
Well, I mean, I think Trump can say Bud Light's a huge employer for this country. People can't say it's American, but Trump can say, I didn't do the Don't Say Gay bill. That's this guy does Don't Say Gay bill. And Trump will like, that's nice and simple. So he like that.
Right.
And Trump can also
say I didn't do the 6-week abortion ban. He can
exactly.
say I didn't.
This
he
guy
can
wants
say
to
I
take a
didn't
woman
ban any books.
Right.
He can say I didn't.
And that would, if Trump can do it without calling Nikki Haley a horse face, then possibly he could make inroads to women, college-educated women again.
Right. So that's like, I mean, Trump can make progress against DeSantis on those issues for sure, but I think it matters like where people are on those issues too, because I think like the Bud Light thing has been very effective. I think the Matt Walsh What Is a Woman stuff has been very effective. I think boys taking over girls' sports at a high school and a college level has upset a lot of regular people who normally don't care about culture war stuff like at all, right? I think some of the books showing up in the schools do upset some normal people who normally wouldn't really care about the culture war stuff. You know, those are some of the things, and fundamentally, and I know nobody cares about this because it's politics, those things are lies. Like, Ron DeSantis isn't banning books either. You know what I mean? So for Trump to go that route of attacking him on some of these issues, he is attacking DeSantis from the left. I've also seen Trump people attack DeSantis from the left on economic issues, saying he wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. You know, he's a Tea Party Republican, right? So he's been like a fiscal hawk and sort of a benefit-cutting guy, whereas Trump has always been like, you know, no cuts to anything, almost a you know, and Trump has been light on the policy detail here, but Trump has been very much into promising people that they can keep all of the benefits of all these programs without there ever being any pain or having to pay more taxes or whatever, right? So like Trump has always been like no cuts to Medicare and Social Security, right? At a time when Tea Party Republicans really were looking for cuts on these things.
I got a call today from Tom in Harwinton, Connecticut, who brought up a piece of legislation, HB 269, which is according to the Florida, how DeSantis' office described it. Governor DeSantis signs legislation in Israel further combating anti-Semitism. Essentially, this is legislation that was worked on with the ADL, and it takes measures against hate crimes. So listen to this. HB 269 builds upon Governor DeSantis' record of safeguarding the free exercise of religion in Florida by, and here's 5 bullet points. 1, prohibiting actually it's not one, bullet. Prohibiting a person from intentionally dumping litter onto private property for the purposes of intimidating or threatening the owner, resident, or invitee of such property. That makes sense, right? You're not allowed to throw your stuff onto their stuff, right? So, in other words, I guess you could leave a flyer on somebody's door, but you can't leave an anti-Semitic flyer saying blood and soil or whatever the anti-Semites like. So that seems reasonable enough to me. 2, prohibiting a person from willfully and maliciously harassing, threatening, or intimidating another person based on the person's wearing or displaying of any indicia relating to any religious or ethnic heritage. Now that's a problem. That's a possible problem because prohibiting a person from willfully and maliciously harassing, who's to say what's harassment and what isn't? Threatening or intimidating another person based on the person's wearing.
And I think threatening and harassing are already illegal, right?
Well, I mean, but who's to decide what is harassing? I just think that's like, that leaves some room there. And I feel like you harassed me when you said good morning this day because you want to wake up and
Well, there's legal definitions of threat and harass.
Creating a new prohibition against displaying or projecting using any medium in an image onto a building, structure, or other property without written consent. That makes sense. Creating a new trespass offense if a person is not authorized. You can't trespass. In other words, you can't drop hate flyers is what this thing is essentially saying. And you can't see somebody in a yarmulke or a Hasidic Jew and say something based on their appearance that's anti-Semitic. Now, if it's the straight up thing, I've got no problem with it. I do think I do think that it's a tiny bit in a micro level, tiny bit leaves some wiggle room for somebody to claim that your opinion is a hate crime.
Right.
And so that, I think, so DeSantis doing this, could this be a problem?
I mean, I
guess I could ask Catherine Mangu Ward is who I'd want to ask.
Yeah, I mean, and it's almost, that's almost like an older school right-wing cultural battle when all the places like started passing hate crime laws, in general hate crime laws. It kind of fits in with that because that was like sort of a big debate on the right, like in the 90s-ish.
Oh, yeah, I remember. And it was a good debate to be having because the hate crime laws. It was a good debate
to be having, and I agree. And that's a place where the right has sort of like gone away. Like nobody really argues against hate crime laws existing anymore. But
these hate crime laws are to make it too tempting for the right to draw a comparison showing a double standard. So those laws are very convenient for the right
because they only get.
Imagine it was.
Well, yeah, because they only get enforced in one direction.
Right, exactly.
Obviously, they're not enforced the other way.
You look
because
lovely with that pattern.
Thank you.
This new spate of blouses you're buying are quite lovely. They do remind me of what my grandmother used to wear, Alberta. Pause.
But you're into that.
Well, I'm. Jesus, Alice.
Thank you. What was I even saying? Yeah, I mean, I think I talked to you about this. Like, this happened in Connecticut too, right? And I said the same thing. Like, if it's legal to pass out a flyer, it should be legal to pass out any flyer. Like, if it can meet the standard of harassment for a harassment law. Like if you're bothering somebody in particular in your neighborhood and constantly telling them to move out or something, then that's like harassment, whether it's on the basis of race or whether it's on the basis of you just don't like them. It's harassment, so I don't really understand the reason for needing special laws for like when you do the same action but something bad is going on in your heart. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't think that's legislatable. Like, I kind of agree with the old school Republican position that's sort of been like ceded as lost ground on the hate crime stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that. I kind of get the reason for it. He did it in Israel so that he could like have this sort of foreign policy moment thing in Israel.
It
and there's
checks a few.
There's some some Jewish population in Florida that you want to make happy, and like I mean it is what it is, and like and in theory, if you have the right prosecutors in there. That is one, like an anti-Semitism one in particular. That's the other reason is it like when you say it checks boxes for constituencies. The reason he's doing it, and once again, I don't really agree with it, but is because the anti-Semitism in particular, that's like the one thing where you can get the left on it too. The one like hate crime thing that you can also get the left on because there's a bunch of like protected special left-wing groups that are hugely anti-Semitic, the whole squad, and like, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, like Black Hebrew Israelites. There's a bunch of left-wing anti-Semitic stuff that happens too.
Right.
So it is one where you could get the left on it too. Like if you're gonna have hate crime laws, weaponize it towards the left. Also, I disagree with it once again, but it's very much in the Ron DeSantis governing philosophy of take the tools that the left uses against us and turn them on them, right? Like, because he's done all the protesting laws and stuff too.
Right.
So, he's, and it's a fair criticism of DeSantis if you're not into big government. Like, he has embraced the fact that the big government is here. And he says, if they're doing it, we're going to do it too. Like, essentially.
I mean, culturally, conservatives seem to have signed on, and you can ask Bud Light, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, because I've always heard people say this too, like, conservatives don't boycott stuff.
We do now. It's over. Hey, can I ask you, this Media Research Center, the documents that they showed the Department of Homeland Security, I'm not sure if you had time to see this, or if you've known about this, but it's been a few days old. Yeah, I did. It's Jim Jordan. So the Media Research Center obtained documents that show the Department of Homeland Security is using a program meant to fight terrorists, and they're likening groups like the Heritage Foundation, MAGA, Fox News, and RNC, and comparing all those to Nazis. So in other words, they've done so. The groups give up essentially. They'll give different activist institutions and even colleges, etc., grants, and they use this grant money to put on lectures and create ads, etc., that call out the Heritage Foundation, etc. It used to be something. These grants under Obama were supposed to be used, ideally, to fight terrorism, but although Obama used it a little bit domestically as well, and then Trump stopped it and said, we're only going to do this about foreign terrorists, because he was is xenograph. What do they call it? Xenophobic?
Xenophobe. Mm-hmm.
So now they're showing here that it's quite interesting. According to the report, it's actually being done. That, like, for instance, let me see right here. Here's Jim Jordan.
I want to get your take on something even worse. Earlier in the program, I spoke with Media Research Center President Brent Bozell. He says his group obtained documents that show the Department of Homeland Security is using a program meant to fight terrorists, and they're likening groups like the Heritage Foundation, MAGA, Fox News, the RNC. They're comparing all of those to Nazis, Congressman.
Yeah, this is really scary, too. But this is consistent, frankly, with what President Biden said last fall when he stood in front of Independence Hall with that eerie background that he had and gave that ridiculous speech where he called half the country fascist. This is now this pattern, this mindset that I think exists in way too many of the top people in these federal agencies. Remember, this is the same agency, the Department of Homeland Security, who tried to set up the Disinformation Governance Board. This is the same government where the Richmond field office of the FBI said, if you're a pro-life Catholic, they view you as extremists. I mean, this is how ridiculous it's gotten. And again, it's why under Speaker McCarthy and House Republicans with the majority now, why our work on exposing how these agencies have been turned against the American people.
And they've got a huge list there of how they're doing it, who's getting money, how it's being targeted. They've FOIAing the Department of Homeland Security, and they're blowing off the FOIAs, blowing off their records requests, etc. That said, the recipients of these grants have to do their own disclosure, and they're sending information over. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, going after the NRA, the Heritage Foundation, conservative, businesses, etc. This is not good, but of course, this is the hubris of this. They have waged an internal domestic war,
right.
A war on domestic terror, and they have conflated conservatism with domestic terrorists. So this is not. I'm not
on
trying
purpose.
To be,
when you say conflated, that makes it sound like it could have possibly been accidental, like they're just confused or something. But they, on purpose, are weaponizing this stuff against conservatives.
Right. That's not good.
No.
And what that does, among other things, is it's good for Trump because he was numero uno in the crosshairs of the government bureaucracies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the argument with Trump is that, like, they're not coming after me because they care about me. They're coming after me to try and get to you. I'm just in their way. That whole, like, meme thing that Trump does. But, yeah, and I don't know how much, like, I necessarily believe that, Trump's going to do something about it, actually. But
I mean, I don't know.
That's an issue because he didn't before, right? Like,
well, he was also, the bureaucracies were playing offense against him, against the executive branch. the president of the United States, believe it, incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Man, had the executive branch, had bureaucracies, administrative state done that to Barack Obama, I think there would be a little press coverage on it.
Yeah, I would.
There would be 6,000 people incarcerated for 18 years, like this guy from the Oath Keepers was.
Right. I mean, and the left used to know this about government agencies and stuff, and because the FBI and all these things used to go after that, after left-voting radical groups in like the 60s and the 70s and whatever. But, you know, things have changed. Things have changed. I just want to make a public service announcement. I know that I have indicated that even though Taylor Swift is a big progressive, a lot of people think she doesn't go far enough.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that has continued to ramp up because she broke up with her boyfriend of 6 years, Joe Allen, and started dating somebody called Maddie Healy, who was in a band called 1975. I've never heard of any of this or any of these people. But apparently...
By the way, Taylor, was Pete Davidson not available? What is this? Who the hell is Maddie Healy?
I don't know. So apparently, they, like, they've had the same producer or something in the past, and I guess they, like, once dated really briefly 10 years ago, but just, like, timing-wise and stuff, it didn't end up working out, but, like, she had just broken up with Joe Allen in February, and they, like, reconnected, and he's been at a bunch of her concert tour dates or whatever. But apparently, even though nobody had really, like, heard of him until just this minute...
He's not okay.
He's extremely problematic.
Uh-oh.
Extremely problematic. He's also a big progressive, but...
Not big enough.
No. I mean, he's, like... I don't know if he's just, like, edgy or... what his deal is exactly, but you can go look at people say that he's said Islamophobic and misogynistic things, and I don't even know. It's not like, let's see if we can find his
There was a time, by the way, that rock and rollers would say all the bad things, and that's one of the things that made them cool.
Yeah, so I think he just tries to be edgy mostly, but he identifies as straight, though his sexuality has been a topic of discussion. He refuses to define it, stating he's just a person. I feel like he's kind of in the Harry Styles mold that way. I don't know. Criticized how conversations about musicians revolve around their sexual identity. He's a recovering heroin addict. Great. Activism and political views, identifies as a liberal. He's not on the extreme left, but he doesn't like the word centrist. He's an atheist and is profoundly anti-religion. He's pro-climate change. He's pro-women rights. He's a vocal advocate for LGBT rights. But yeah, anyway, he's apparently really, really problematic, I guess. I don't know, whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it's a big problem that Taylor Swift is dating him now, I guess. And a lot of people are wrestling with it as they pay thousands of dollars for Taylor Swift Eras tickets, tours, mostly, it seems, rich white women. This woman called Holly Stallcup ended up tweeting a whole thread, which I wanted to read you the whole thing, and she has made her account private, but I'm finding as many screenshots as I can of it. I should have screenshotted the whole thing, and I'm so stupid.
Oh, no, it was... So in other words, it's a self-struggle session that she tries to work through. So she
posted a huge, long thread about how she's traveling to New York City to go see the Eras tour, and she got really cheap tickets through, like, a total twist of fate, and she has good tickets, and that she's, like, super excited, but she feels that she owes us all a big explanation of it all, and that she's really struggling with it, but that she's...
This is great.
So she goes, before I leave for New York City, here is my thread on seeing Taylor this weekend while she is dating a racist, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, overall problematic white man. And she goes, Taylor is doing something wrong and harmful. She doesn't hold responsibility for men's actions. She does hold responsibility for her own. My biggest commitment is to keep following the lead of marginalized fans in this situation. Following that lead, I am choosing to go this weekend. I know that I have to continue to interrogate if I'm just looking for marginalized fans saying it's okay to keep being a fan, because that is what I want to hear and not listening to everyone. I know that the end result may be disengaging with Taylor's music for a time or forever, but not before this weekend when I'm going to go to the tour. I'm looking for more screenshots of this because, yeah, she went into a whole thing saying, like, it's embarrassing that she's going to be there in the crowd with mostly white women who haven't thought about the harmful impact that their presence there has made. I'm doing the work to think about it, you guys.
This is a new approach because I'm going to do it.
I'm going to go
to do the bad thing, but I'm
concert
going to
that everyone wants to go to. So my public service announcement basically is that if you have Taylor Swift tickets and it's really eating you up, you can give them to me. I'll travel.
That's right. But will you also lay a litany of disclaimers?
I am going to be completely guilt-free and go to the concert with absolutely zero qualms. So if you feel upset about it and feel that you can't now, under the circumstances, post on your social media that you're enjoying the Taylor Swift concert, you can give them to me and I'll do it for you.
It's like in Iran, you going, demanding to get your hand cut off and then stealing a TV afterwards.
Right.
I'm going to pay the penance now, and I'm sorry, and this isn't right, and it's horrible, horrible thing. But you know what? It's also, what it also is? That's very much a woman's way of thinking. The thing that I want, I'm going to go get.
I'm still going to go do it.
Yes, I'm going to give you a song and dance Broadway production on Otherwise, but I'm still doing the thing.
Right, yeah.
Yes, and heaven and earth will be moved to explain away and make the thing. I like her.
Yeah, I'm going to explain to you why I'm doing this extremely problematic thing. And she has one tweet in the thread, too, where she says that she's, like, had a tough year and she's going to choose joy and to enjoy the concert. Like, okay, your decision. But can you imagine and caring that much about, like, the fact that somebody's dating somebody who shares all your political views, by the way. She's not, like, dating a Nazi or even, like, a conventional conservative.
No.
She's not dating Tucker Carlson, right? Like, she's dating somebody who agrees with them on everything. But I feel like that's almost why, like, we've talked about this before. It's like once you bend the knee to them, then they know they have power over you, and then they come after you, which is why you need to, like, never apologize, never back down, never give them, like, 2 seconds of your time, because they only do this with Taylor Swift because her new boyfriend, because they know that they fundamentally agree with them and are scared of them.
Right.
Like, Taylor Swift caved before when they pressured her to, like, come out and say stuff.
And I think that, as well, that progressives know that Taylor Swift's fan base is the most pliable emotionally of any fan base. Like, I think that, who's the guy who sings Keith? One Solo Red Solo Cup.
Toby Keith.
I think his fan base is not pliable. They're not going to be bullied and pushed into stuff. They're like big old F you. If you don't like it, you can pound. I don't think Megadeth's fan or Metallica's fan base is going to be like Taylor Swift's fan base. These are precisely Canada Goose jackets, Range Rovers.
Yeah,
this is who want to be thought of as good. They care about what yard side they have.
Right. These
are the people who were Venmoing black people in the middle of the street after George Floyd, just to show.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the things he did that people don't like, is he tweeted positively about George Floyd and about Black Lives Matter and said you couldn't say all lives matter. But he also linked to one of his band's songs in the tweet because he felt that like expressed it better than he could express it in a tweet. But then people said he was like using George Floyd to self-promote.
Yeah, he was self-centering.
Yeah.
To center George Floyd.
Amid online criticism,
today is
his
the
tweet
third
was
anniversary of George Floyd's death, Alice.
Is today?
Yeah, it is.
Wow. So
that's actually right around when I started the Burn Barrel, as a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, that's true, because the world was going crazy at the time. I'm trying to see if I can even figure out like what he's done what he said that's terrible.
It's okay.
He insulted somebody named Ice Spice, who I also don't know who that is, but who apparently is black.
Ice Spice. Did you see what Ice Cube said, by the way? Uh-oh.
What did Ice Cube say?
Ice Cube, he gave this interview in which he said that, he didn't vote for Trump last time. But he also didn't vote for Biden. But at the end of the interview, and I'll see if I can find it here. At the end of the interview, he says something very, very. And by the way, this interviewer, it's some dude who's just some dude from some podcast. I would be nervous interviewing Ice Cube, just in the off chance that I say something that makes him want to shoot me. And I'm not trying to be racist or anything. It's just that like NWA seemed prone to violence. Do you care to tell people what it stands for, Alice?
I'm not allowed to say some of the words.
That's right, Alice. You don't care. That's exactly right. Let me look for it. Anyway, all he said is that the Democratic Party has done nothing for black people, and they've been voting for Democrats for 60 years, and they've gotten nothing for it.
Say that again?
He said that Democrats have done nothing for us for 60 years. We voted for them and supported them, and they've done nothing for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And I also think that he probably thinks correctly that people in the inner cities, in marginalized communities, absolutely need to have the guns, especially when you have the belief that you can't count on the cops. You need to have a legal gun to protect you and your family, because,
Yeah.
All right, so should we do the hot sauce?
Yes, the hot sauce is in fact Chelsea Fire Wicked hot sauce. Delicious hot sauce, and they bring us the Chelsea Fire Wicked hotline, where you can leave messages for the Chat Chat.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Alice one more biblical question.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm kidding.
Oh, good.
I'm kidding, Tom. I'm kidding. Anyway, I just listened to your All You Can Eat podcast, and I have to say I've got a couple of major problems, along with your regular podcast.
Okay.
Why don't we fry cookies? Yeah. Well, because baking is a science.
Is it true?
And cookies are designed to be baked in an oven surrounded by heat, not just one half of it surface heated and then flipped over.
What about deep fried?
Well, that's a different animal altogether.
But that's obviously surrounded by heat,
obviously,
though.
we're for that. But
I've heard you can deep fry anything.
But a pancake is a cake in a pan, and the same thing is happening.
But it comes out different than cake does.
I guess so, yeah. It comes out different than cake does, but not too different. It's still bready and sweet. That's a good...
Maybe we need to do some baking experimenting.
I'm going to do them. Yeah, that'll be good for the podcast. I'll do them. I want to fry up some cookies.
Maybe we should watch
in butter,
together.
Are you kidding me?
Maybe can we watch together the show that I was telling you about? The salt, fat, acid, heat show? Or fat? I forget what order it goes in. But...
Sure.
It's a good show that gets into some of this, because the different types of heat do affect food.
Okay. That's why there's usually different sorts of ingredients in cookies, and they take time to cook internally in an oven.
But donuts can be baked or fried.
And a bagel is boiled, isn't it?
I don't know how to make a bagel, I feel like.
Isn't a bagel like boiled in water? Isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'm not going to take a stand
on
that.
Number 2.
That's not Ron DeSantis' bill, right? Is that using symbolism?
Your podcast, Tom Bell.
I meant because bagels, Jewish bagels.
I get what you meant.
Okay. There are other unfortunate elements in that. Okay, let's get away from that. Let's put some space between us and that.
Bellowed out at the end, and I say bellowed, yes. He puts mayonnaise on a meatball sub, and I do not understand what sort of monster would actually do that.
Dr. Cheswick, believe me, mayonnaise with a tomato sauce that's on a meatball sub is fantastic. You could also possibly use ranch
I'm
dressing.
not as into the use of mayo as you are. It's true.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, it's gorgeous. You should not. There should be a half a gallon of mayo by your side with any sub you've got. Any sub. You should be rocking and rolling that mayo. You should feel a little sick at the end. Oh, it's so gorgeous.
I am a fat. But I got to tell you, that is just beyond all comprehension. So now with the biblical question. I'm kidding. I actually love both of these. Thank you both for reviewing what you do and going out and spending your life online. I mean, not online, but you guys do what you do. Talk to you soon.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
I like that.
That's
I like that. And then he wrapped it up by saying, you do what you do. It's there.
That reminds me of what Hillary Chabot said about you.
So, Chaddock, you are who you are. It's the warmest thing she ever said to me. She tried to conjure something up. You're happening in front of me. Happy birthday. Something. Okay, last one. Ready?
So ready. I've recovered from that one.
Can you try to laugh with your eyes open?
No.
Why does that happen?
I don't know. Just go ahead.
Good afternoon, Shaddocks.
Tommy, New Hampshire.
2 things that cause me physical pain on the Burn Barrel podcast.
Yes, sir.
Number 1, you both know this. Your technical issues starting every show.
Yes.
Which I.
What was the last one?
There's been a lot of audio stuff recently, I assume.
Oh, that was was that yesterday? The days go into each other.
Which I've tried to fix.
Yeah, we're gonna figure that out, Tommy. So here's what I'm doing. This is what we wanted to talk to you about. I'm gonna switch one of these out for the new Mac that you got me, or us. And I thought you packed thumb drives too in that thing, but I thought they're somewhere around here. So I just need to move some audio files off of one old Mac from 2013 onto the new one. But before I do that, we want to do one more.
I've explained to Tom that you don't actually need thumb drives to transfer audio files from one device to another anymore. There's a thing called the cloud where you can put stuff.
But are you gonna do it like a thumb drive that quickly, or am I gonna be waiting 45 minutes?
I don't think it's that much slower, but
I don't know where in the cloud this stuff is going to.
Internet.
It's a long story. So the other thing is this: is that before we do that, we want to make sure that we can't use that one for video, even though we'd love to, because the HVAC system wouldn't go off all the time, and it's a much better machine than Alice's Windows machine. The only thing is that only 3 cameras work when we use it, and we don't know. Why do you think that is? You think it's something about the Mac?
There's like a setting that I don't have for the cameras on the Mac that I have on the Windows computer where I can force the cameras to deactivate.
That's in OBS.
When they're not just in OBS. Well, I'm told by the internet that it's because the Mac doesn't control the cameras in the same way that the Windows machine does.
Okay. Well, we'll elucidate on that.
We'll discuss it with Tommy later. How about that?
And number 2. Your sport ball references in making analogies.
What did I use? Oh, baseball? What was it?
Well, that was somebody else's piece of writing. About the, I can't fit these on with
Oh, yeah, that was somebody else's piece. Oh, yeah, that wasn't me.
That was about the Dodgers.
Yeah. I try to stay away. Other than baseball, I try to stay away from sports too much. And even baseball. But that was somebody else's writing, who, by the way, liked my compliment of him. Oh, by the way, I won't give it away. Forget it.
What?
No. I was just going to say that I'll save it for the All You Can Eat podcast has gotten some good feedback from some of our All You Can Eat podcast partners. Yeah, so that's what I'll do. Guys, thank you so much.
All You Can Eat podcast.
Thank you so much as usual. Always been great. There's Anson Shattuck.
You're probably going to have lots of time to listen to the All You Can Eat podcast over Memorial Day weekend while you're driving. So go download some of those.
We will be doing podcasts this weekend at an undisclosed location, which may or may not be in Massachusetts and another state. As Anson, show them that shirt, that hat. That is merch available. That is a little Jerry Callahan hat. That is available. All You Can Eat merch is available too, including some sexy pieces, as you know.
Thank you so much for listening. BurnBarrelPodcast.com if you want to find the links to various merch, various shows, places to listen. If you want to join us on Patreon for live chats and stuff like that, a little bit of extra weekly content, you can do that at patreon.com/burnbarrel. What else can I tell you to do? Follow us on Twitter at BurnBarrelPod, at All You Can Eat Pod.
C'est la vie.